Chat are going to take you through all the action, so let's head over to them now.
Thank you, Shocks, and welcome back, everyone. It is time for Evo Geniuses and Ninjas in Pajamas to head into the Rift.
And these two teams are separated in the standings by just one game. They could actually be tied after this one. Even though the scores could potentially be tied up, Evil Geniuses are 0-3 against NIP this season. So in tiebreaker scenarios, NIP will always have the edge. So it's important to win, but it would still put EG behind NIP.
Every win's a win, though, and they've got to pick them up. Let's check out the lineups, of course. You've been seeing them all season long. For Evo Geniuses this week, it will be Wicked in the top lane. Snoopy makes his return in the jungle. Froggen in the mid lane. Yellow Pete's the AD carry, and Crepo as the support.
And, of course, on the red side for this matchup is going to be the Ninjas in Pajamas. Mima up top, Maluno in the jungle, Jurgensen in the mid lane, as well as Freeze and Deficio as your AD carry and support.
So every LCS team does their homework, but it can be tricky to prepare for a match when you don't really know who's going to be on the roster.
When facing EG, we need to actually prepare for both junglers because we don't really know who we will face.
NIP kind of tried to improve repeatedly by swapping out people out of their roster. I think it's actually been working for them. They have very, very skilled players.
Our record so far against EG has been really good, but some of the matches has been really close.
With the pickup with Mimer, he has 3 accounts in Challenger. The guy has phenomenal mechanics, and that's one thing that we need to watch out for.
Expect that to be one of the harder matches of the week.
So starting out with one of the harder matches of the week. Well, they're all pretty hard this week, I think. Let's check out what you guys at home think about it, though, and see how the voting is.
60% of you in favor of Evil Geniuses.
60%. The EG army is still strong.
It is. There's a lot of fans behind EG. The thing that's very interesting, if you compare the size of the fan base, there was some Reddit threads about it. For 40% of it still to go in favor of NIP, it does have a little bit of faith in the team or understanding. Because, I mean, we talked about it already. 0-3 against NIP this split.
Well, NIP did pick up a lot of fans from the last split. They were the underdogs that everybody got behind when they were 0-9.
Yep.
And managed to come back into it. It's a great story that they had, and they picked up a lot of fans. Of course, you can check out and vote over on lolesports.com. So let's take a look at this match, because the way things stand right now, both Ninjas in Pajamas and Evo Geniuses are in playoff positions, but they don't have a lot of cushion, especially when you look at SK's last match.
Yeah, and it's something we talked about a moment ago. 4th and 5th place in the standings. Neither team wants to start off the week with a loss. And as I said, this is kind of a weird match for EG, because even if they win, they're still in 5th position, right? They need to win more than this to climb up above NIP in the rankings.
But Evo Geniuses are looking like a new team lately. They're no longer content to just sit and farm, which, God, thank God for that. In the last few weeks, we've seen them breaking out of lanes, looking for kills all over the map, which is not what we used to see from Evo Geniuses.
No, it's not. And you would think that that's because of the influence of Shaka, who they did add to the roster for his aggression and his aggressive play. But he actually didn't really even play in the games that we're talking about and trying to highlight. Evil Geniuses' 2 victories last week were actually with Snoopy. And since adding Shaka, the biggest change has come from all of the other teammates. And Evil Geniuses as a whole have been playing much more aggressively. Froggen last week, he went 10-0-6 against Gambit, and he went 9-1-11 against Fnatic, which is something we haven't seen Froggen doing for a while. And in addition to that, their group fights, their team fights have all been looking very, very good. Against Fnatic in particular, they had assists, everyone in the double digits.
Well, they were always one of the teams that once they got to late game, you knew their team fights were going to be good, but they've not been able to make it to late game for a long time. The funny thing is, though, that they've been playing better since they started rotating Snoopy and Shaka, but they have a losing record with Shaka right now in the jungle. He's only 2-3, while that man on your screen, Snoopy, he's 3-0.
Yeah, Snoopy does seem to be picking and choosing the games that he's confident he will do well in. What we've seen throughout the course of the split is that they're trialing Shaka against some top of the table teams, bottom of the table teams, and Snoopy basically says, I think I can win this one. He jumps and you know what? He's 3-0, so you can't fault his logic.
Seems to be working for him. Ninjas in Pajamas, though, they have been known all too well about relegation. As we spoke about really earlier on, they have been sent down to the promotion tournament before last split, and it was Evo Geniuses that actually sent them there. And I don't think they're too anxious to go back there. But this is hardly the same team as last spring.
Yeah, very, very different composition. Only Deficio and Bjergsen have been with the team since the spring, and they really have been sort of the backbone of the Ninjas in Pajamas. Deficio in particular, he's got the second best KDA ratio at 6.1, and in my opinion, he is the strongest Nami player in the whole EU LCS. He's played 10 games, he's won 6 of them, and his statistics across all 10 games, he's got 11 kills, 9 deaths, and 97 assists. Just think about that for a second. In 10 games at LCS level, to have a KDA of 12, that's pretty impressive.
Pretty damn good. Ninja Pajamas, though, they started out the season very slowly. They went 2-6. It was not a good start, and then they made the roster changes. That turned everything around. They brought in Extinct, Maluno, and Freeze. From week 3 to week 7, they went on a 7-3 rampage, and then since Extinct chose to leave the team, they added in Mima, and they've been 3-2 since then.
So we're going to have to see which iteration of NIP show up. It is only 5 games, so it's a little unfair to start questioning Mima's performance because they have been up and down this season. But we'll see. These next 2 or 3 games are going to determine which side of NIP, whether it's going to be weeks 1 to 3 or weeks 4 to 7.
Well, let's move on to our featured matchup today, of course, because we are focusing on the all-Danish mid laners there on your screen, Froggen and Bjergsen.
So we touched on this a little bit earlier, but Froggen has really been picking up his game lately, I would say since Tenerife. And since Evil Geniuses have switched to the 7-man roster, Froggen's KDA is 3.65 alongside Shaka. All right, that's in their 5 games. And when Snoopy's playing, it's a mere 24.5.
That's quite big.
In 3 games with Snoopy. That is an immense KDA.
Well, Froggen has brought back his mid lane Jace champion, and with some promising results, went 3-1 with him. He's also playing Cassidy and Ari a lot more, and those two are pretty much Bjergsen's favourite champions as well. And Bjergsen has had a very impressive 14 KDA when he plays Ari, so that's possibly a champion he could be looking towards. Definitely interested to see if he's going to make an appearance with that one.
Yeah, basically because of the overlap the champions Froggen's been doing well with, as well as being Bjergsen's favorite, there's going to be contention over those picks. And as you mentioned, Ari is very important. I do feel like we have to talk about Zed, though, when we talk about Bjergsen, because last week, Bjergsen just dismantled MYM alongside Mima Shen. They basically 2v5'd them. I mean, if you think about it, they were behind towers, they consistently picked up fights. Bjergsen also destroyed Xpeke on the same weekend. Even though they went on to lose the game, his Zed versus Peke's Ari was very, very impactful. And I think Ari Zed are going to be high priority grabs or bans in this patch for Bjergsen. No matter who he plays, NIP have to hope that Bjergsen has a good day, because a little bit more stats, right? His performance when NIP win is 7.4 KDA. And his performance when they lose is 1.73. That is chalk and cheese.
Basically, he's good with ninjas. Who'd have thought?
Ninjas in pajamas, I see. Well played, sir.
Yeah, so we are going to get things underway in just a few moments. Like we said, though, EG, they're 3-0 down in this matchup.
Yeah, it's a difficult one to play. To be fair, there's been a number of different NIP teams that they've played against, so it's actually even more difficult to analyze and talk about, because it's like, well, EG have had roster swaps, NIP have had roster swaps, so it's kind of like a fresh battle once again. You know, it's different players, different setup, different training methods, and we'll have to see who has prepared at the level of SK and if they can do that in this game.
We'll see who they do prepare for, because the bans are starting to come through. The first ban of the day, though, was Fizz, I believe I just saw there.
It was a Fizz ban. Evil Geniuses have taken that one away. If I recall correctly, Bjergsen played Fizz against Alexic's Twisted Fate.
Yes.
Week 7 or week 8, fairly recently.
Last week, yep.
And you don't want to give a playmaker like Bjergsen an assassin champion, so we'll have to see what gets banned out following these ones.
Interesting. So Malphite being taken away, Fiddlesticks removed from Deficio, Shen also banned out, Zed taken away. Didn't want to see that ninja from Bjergsen. Let's see what NIP's last ban is. We're pretty sure we know what EG's first pick will be, but we'll see. Cassidy has been taken away, so they didn't want Froggen running that one.
Thresh or Elise are both open. If they want to go Zac, that's for Wicked. They've locked that one in. And I wonder if they've maybe left Thresh, because Deficio does tend towards the Nami. So it's kind of saying, well, if they lock in the Nami or the dual lane for NIP, we can basically safely secure our support pick.
Bam, straight away. Jarvan and Vayne. Vayne mechanics all over again. Freeze this time while we're running it. Of course, Freeze's Draven was impacted quite heavily in the last patch, and he's had to be looking for a new AD carry. Vayne is one that pretty much all of American career have settled on right now.
Yeah, it's also quite interesting because in EU, we tend to have picked up Vayne a little more on average than NA. And NA sort of tended towards Twitch for a little while. That was sort of their pick or their flavor of the month. Now, I want to talk about Aatrox for a quick second because Wicked has been spamming Aatrox. So if that gets locked in, it's going to be a Zac jungle, and it's going to be Wicked playing Aatrox in the top lane. We had a brief chat. He said he played about 70 or 80 games of Aatrox in this last week.
This is why we were quite surprised that it wasn't banned now. He told us just before we came on air, and we were like, okay, you really want to play that champion, don't you? So we'll see how that works out. Sona coming out from Crepo. I don't remember the last time I saw Crepo playing Sona.
It is a very, very long time, but I really like the pickup. And the reason it's good, you've got multiple knockups from Zac, from Aatrox, that'll throw people into the air. If you can knock up 2 or 3 targets and then crescendo them, it's just guaranteed complete lockdown. So immediately
you can bounce on them with Aatrox as well.
That's it. You've already got all of this knockdown, this CC, this utility that's really going to work out well for them.
And there's an annoying champion straight away, though. Yorick being locked in. That's going to be the top lane. So Yorick versus an Aatrox. God knows how that one's going to work out, but Thresh has been picked up by Deficio.
So the Yorick on the other side, it is to do with the hyper carry of Vayne. You just get the Omen of Death down and it works well. I also want to touch on the fact that Jarvan's Cataclysm is basically going to be negated by everyone except Sona. They all have ways to get in and out of that pit. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on Maluna to get knockups with his EQ combo than his impact of his Cataclysm in these fights. And I definitely think that at the moment, I'm preferring Evil Genius's roster.
Well, it's good to see we do the research. And everybody at home, there is the Ahri pick. We said it was going to be a contested pick between the 2 AP mid laners, or the hyper mid laners, I guess you could call them in this game, because Ahri has been picked for Froggen.
So my thinking, if I were a Bjergsen right now, would be maybe pick something that's also got some hyper carry damage. If you wanted to go for a Rise, the Omen of Death would have been very good in that situation. Instead, they've gone for a very CLG NA-esque composition. This is protect the freeze, as it were, because you're just going to come on attack, come on protect, put Omen of Death down. The damage is almost all going to come from Vayne after the burst is done from Orianna, because the rest of it's basically utility.
So everybody else is trying to copy Career. NOP is saying, we're going to copy CLG.
Pretty much.
Why not?
Pretty much.
Why not?
I think the early game is so important for NIP here right now, because if they fall behind, there are so many damage threats from EG. Aatrox, Zac, Ahri, Caitlyn can clean up fights. On the other side, it's a lot more difficult for a Jarvan, a Yorick, and Orianna without ability power to clean up fights.
Well, you know, after Double they've called all of Europe trash, maybe you're going to appear thinking, hey, this guy speaks with some serious authority, we should copy what they do.
I'm not going to put words in their mouths, but I tell you what, you can go on the record for that one. But it's a composition that we're seeing from EG that is unique. This is new for us. We haven't seen them running Aatrox in the past. It's really been Darian that's been trying to make it work in the top lane, and I'm going to, call apart because it's mixed results. He has been very good, and he has been not so very good on that Aatrox. So we'll have to see how good Wicked's practice has been with these 70-odd games. You reckon he's got a 65% win ratio? 65% in solo queue is pretty decent at Challenger Diamond 1 level.
Yeah, when you can't control the rest of your teammates. We'll see how it works out for them. I always love to see which summoner icons these guys choose. They don't always pick their own team, do they?
No, not at the minute. Deficio is actually rocking the Velocity Esports while Bjergsen's going TSM. We're talking about the backbone of NIP, and the backbone's not rocking the NIP logos.
The backbone's not rocking
letting the side down. All the new kids have got the badges on the shirts.
Sorry, Heaton. They have the shirts on, don't worry. You can see them on your screens there. There is Evo Geniuses. These guys finished 3rd place in the World Finals at Season 2. Can they make it to the playoffs? That is the question, let alone the World Finals. At the moment, the question is being asked, and we'll see how they respond. There's Evo Geniuses. They are going to be the blue team on your screens, and Ninjas in Pajamas will be starting out as the red.
My question is, if Evil Geniuses want to put themselves in a lane swap position right now, I think Aatrox against Yorick will be a pretty even matchup. They both have very good sustain in lane, and Wicked may be able to out-sustain Mimer's Yorick because he's based on mana in these very early levels. Wicked simply needs to auto-attack with that Bloodthirst, Blood Price on his W. So I think they would want a 1v1, but we'll have to see if they agree or if they're just going to deal with the 1v2 situation.
The Geniuses are setting up for a potential late invade here. They're going to a good position to try and get some wards down over at that red. We do see Freeze there. They jump straight on him. Wow, he had to tumble away so quick from that one. Very nearly caught out. Quick reactions.
Yeah, very good reactions there from Freeze. I think even if the knockup had landed, it may not have been the end of the world. He still had barrier and flash, and there was nobody else following it up. But nonetheless, early ward down, some vision control here for EG. And remember that the camp spawned at 2:05, so any of these delayed invades could be a little bit more impactful.
So they did manage to get that ward in. I tell a lie, is it a ward in the bush?
It is on the right-hand side.
It is on the right-hand side. I can't quite see it. There it is. Freeze stood right on top of it. So they do know.
I think he's busy dancing.
Was placed there. He is having some sweet fun with that ward bucket at the moment, though. Well, we saw already what he's leveled up. We'll see how that works out for him. And are we going to see lane switches? Yes, we are, but it's actually going to be a 2v2 in the top lane. And that means that Wicked will be heading down to that bottom very late, getting to lanes as well.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this matches up. I am happy to see the 1v1 matchup. I think the Wicked's going to be confident and comfortable with it. It's what he's been doing in solo queue. When we do see those Deficio and Freeze, they basically want to harass Evil Geniuses. Thought about going to annoy Snoopy and decided against it at the end of the day.
But he did force Crepo to put a ward down, so that was a ward effectively used, wasted, I don't know what, but it did force him away from that one. Maluno picks up the red buff. He starts off there, and he's going to head down towards that blue buff of his own. Ping goes on them from Evil Geniuses, so they know exactly where they are. Crepo thought about picking up the CS. He could have picked up that one CS there. It got wasted.
So we'll see how this early game goes, because both teams have got very good advantages. Crepo's playing quite aggressive as he eats a flay from Deficio, and I think the sustain of EG will play it in longer fights.
Wow, Ignite's already being used in the bottom lane. Mima and Wicked putting the Ignites down, wanting to get aggressive on each other. It looks like Wicked actually came out worse off in that trade. There's a lot of minions as well for Mima. So Mima starting off very well. As you mentioned, he's going to be spamming out that mana. We do see the hook landed on towards Crepo, but Condemn had already been used on Yellow Pete.
Yeah, if Freeze had held onto that one, they could have pinned Crepo to the wall, but instead he blew it a little earlier, throwing Yellow Pete away to safety. Let's take a look at the bottom lane, because I want to see how Wicked handles the focus from Mima, because Mima's just going to be throwing those ghouls out as long as he has mana to sustain. He's at 50% right now. Once that gets lower, that's Wicked's opportunity to go in, last hit, get his health back.
And Snoopy was looking to come down and try and help out there. He's actually in the Dragon Pit right now, knows that there is a ward just there, which is why he hasn't going to cross. Is he going to sneak up towards the blue or maybe go for an invade? No, he's sneaking around, but he's actually unseen right now with that double buff. Let's see if he slingshots himself in towards Bjergsen. And meanwhile, Maluna doing exactly the same in the top there. The exhaust get used on towards Freeze. Crepo well deep out of position here. He could get knocked up, forces the flash, but he's going to get taken down with the Dragon Strike. And now Pete's in trouble. He has the 90 caliber net away, but he is going to get to safety, but First Blood comes down.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why Evil Geniuses were playing that aggressive that early. Simply put, Crepo was too far overextended, and he got himself caught by that hook. So good play by NIP, and Maluno being at exactly the right spot at exactly the right time.
Yeah, very good work by the jungler, and we've seen some fantastic Jarvans of late, certainly in Korea.
Yeah, we were talking about that during the OGN quarterfinals, and I think it was Bengi who was absolutely blowing our minds with his performance. What I do want to touch on is that Maluno was up in that top lane around about 4 minutes. In the previous game, Alternate secured First Blood on a 3v1 tower dive at about 4 minutes 20, 4 minutes 30. So I want to keep my eyes on that as the games progress, because that might be the new 3-minute 3-man tower dive. It may now be the 4-minute 3-man tower dive.
It's moved it on a minute. Every little minute counts. Wicked, meanwhile, he's having a fun time of it down against Mima here. He has actually stepped ahead in terms of CS, despite the pressure he had early on. We are seeing Snoopy also looking to sneak around. Talking about that 4-minute, 5-minute tower dive, he's going to walk straight into a bush, so gets spotted by the ward.
So we do see that Mime is already starting to back off. He has his flash available, and Yorick is actually pretty frustrating to try and gank. He does have an on-hit slow, from that ghoul that he's just thrown down. If he manages to land his Q, he gets a movement speed increase as well. So on condition that there's some minions around to smack in the head with that shovel, he can get away safely. He's doing relatively well in this lane so far.
Well, hopefully we can get a look at Wicked, because we don't see, I'm sure, obviously a lot of Aatrox being played lately. See how he's leveling up at the moment.
He's at the moment still maxing his E ability, which is the Blades of Torment, the on-hit slow. Yeah. And it's what you do tend to see from Aatroxes in 1v2 situations. So he's basically just saying, I can't deal with all the ghouls of Yorick, and he's keeping himself further back and playing it safer.
Playing it safe at the moment in the top lane. is certainly going to be Deficio and Freeze, or Defrizio as he uses the lantern to pull in there. Crepo's going to get caught again. Gets the knock-up straight away. Crepo's a dead man. That's going to get finished off. Can they get the second? No. Forces the flash from Yellow Pete.
Another brilliant gank there from Maluno. They chained that, dark passage into the Flay perfectly, and Deficio 002, he set up both of NIP's kills so far.
Very good setup there, and again, it was poor Crepo getting spotted out there. The lantern being thrown out for vision. Yellow Pete actually dodging out the hook. And Deficio playing very aggressive on Thresh now, and seems to be working very well for him.
Yeah, and remember that Vayne's early game is a little slow. Snoopy's charged up the slingshot. They're thinking about picking the fight. They've caught Deficio.
They're going to go on towards Deficio. Will it be enough? He tries to put the trap down. Piltover comes across, but he hasn't really got the damage. And instead, he has to put some damage back down to Freeze. Use that condemn, I believe, to keep Snoopy at bay.
It was a very good condemn, because if Snoopy had got a little bit more of the stretching strikes or unstable matters off, there may have been enough damage to kill Deficio. Maluno has once again smelled blood in the water. There's no flash on Yellow Pete. So if a good knockup comes into play, this could be the third kill of the game. But remember, Deficio is very low.
And EG being baited into us when they think they've got the pride of position. We do see Froggen actually making his move up there, but he's already going to see Maluno coming in. He snuck himself round towards there. But we also have the Bjergsen making his way up towards the top. Ward's being spotted out. Maluno has to give himself visual preferences to say, hey guys, I'm here. Just get away from our turret.
He hasn't managed to back away. Both of our mid laners are now level 6. Froggen does manage to land a good charm on Deficio. That Orb of Deception, not quite as powerful as it needs to be with just those doubled orange rings.
Froggen for so long had pride of place in Danish hearts as that main mid laner, but Bjergsen definitely stole a lot of fans away, I feel, over the last 2 splits he's played. Fantastic performances in that mid lane. The young 17-year-old who only joined us in week 3 of the spring LCS. You sometimes forget just how young these players are.
Yeah, and he's playing so well. Right now, we do see Crepo, Yellow Pete, and Snoopy stacked up in the top lane. Snoopy's trying to get one more back. He needs to try and put Freeze a little bit more on the back foot, and more importantly, try and make Deficio think twice about going in for every single death sentence. And I think if he does manage to put a little bit of pressure and aggression on this top lane, NIP may play a little more passive.
Well, Snoopy doesn't really need to do a great deal in the middle, so there's no reason he shouldn't just focus on the top lane. The bottom lane is actually being won out by Wicked. You can see in terms of the CFs, he's actually starting to step a lead. He's going to go back and buy at the moment. There is Snoopy going back in once again. Gets condemned again, but instantly they catch on towards Deficio. This time they may well get themselves a kill. There's the Piltover. It's Pete that picks up the kill.
And very well played by Crepo to get the slow onto Deficio. He actually flashed down for that power chord E, the Song of Celerity, got the movement speed debuff, and it just allowed Yellow Pete to land that Piltover Peacemaker perfectly. So the very first kill on the board for Evil Geniuses, and it does go to the AD carry.
We talked about these guys in the featured matchup. They are bang on even right now in terms of CS. There's the Shockwave. He's not going to put enough down. Froggen quite happy to stand there. Took a good chunk of his hit points off though, and he's going to go off and get himself the blue buff.
Yeah, that's basically Bjergsen just saying, just back off, be aware of this. I've got the cooldown reduction from blue, so I'm going to get my ulti up a little bit more quickly, and he just wants to try and take a little bit of control in that lane. It's bang on even. There's one creep separating the two lanes.
Tear of the Goddess picked up by Mima. It's going to take him a while to complete it, but it's definitely going to be a long drawn-out fight here between these two teams. I think we're on for a long slog here, but this is going to be a close battle. Both these teams know what is at stake.
So not only are we going to see two teams sort of farming this one up, because you've got straight matchups of 1v1 and 2v2, neither opponent's tower has really been hit very much, if at all. We do see that NIP have got very good timing. They managed to get in there, sneak away the red buff, and that's the first real invade we've seen from either team at this stage. We do see Shockwave is not available for Bjergsen, so kill potential on Froggen is lower.
Yeah, he didn't get in the Wraith though. He's just what he's trying to do, trying to upset Froggen, try and make sure he can get across that major Wraith. Meanwhile, Snoopy's just thinking, well, great, they've just taken away my entire bottom jungle. All they've got is the golems to go to, which means he will make his presence known. He's going to have to start pushing maybe a little bit more into the lanes. Maluno, though, he's been setting up nicely for kills so far. Got himself the first blood as well as an assist. Wicked, very aggressive here. May get caught out going too deep.
Bloodwell is active and he's got Dark Flight and Flash, so if Maluno doesn't get a good knock-up, Wicked may be able to get away. He's got slowdown. Here comes Maluno.
Oh, he tries to use the Dark Flight, but he got caught out. That's the Flash. It's not going to be enough. Kill will go down. There's the Bloodwell, but it's simply not going to buy him enough time. We do see Snoopy coming in, but he can't buy the time for him required. And that was a really good interrupt by Maluno. Slid through the moment he went for that jump.
What Wicked should have done is opened with Flash, followed with Dark Flight.
Yeah.
flash would not have been interrupted by that knockup. It would have got him away instantly. Unfortunately, that little bit of cast time, you've seen he was halfway in the air and got knocked further up in the air. Another kill for NIP and another kill on the board for Maluno. It's the power of Jarvan in these early games. His knockup is a little more effective than that of Zac, who really needs his ulti to be as effective.
Fantastic job by the jungler of the Ninjas in Pyjamas so far. We do see a needlessly large drop being picked up by Frog, and meanwhile Athene's and Holy Grail has been completed by Bjergsen. So look for those two mid laners to maybe begin roaming, or more importantly, start looking to kill each other.
Yeah, especially once they've got more of the burst potential. It just comes down to who gets caught. You know, if Bjergsen manages to land a good shockwave on Froggen, he does have a bit more ability power to maybe burst him down. And Froggen, it's all about that charm. We do see Froggen a little bit overextended. If the ball comes out, he'll just Spirit Wash away. So Bjergsen, realizing that, decides not to throw the ball out.
Yeah, they tried to collapse in towards him before he got back. Instead, he will throw the ball towards him. Froggen sidesteps it. A little bit of mechanics being used there, wipes out the minion wave, and Froggen now heading actually down south, just trying to keep Bjergsen guessing, keeping Bjergsen actually in the lane and forcing him to have to farm out here. Hasn't got any boots up at the moment, which is why Froggen has that mobility advantage over Bjergsen so far.
Yeah, and Bjergsen is maxing his W, the command dissonance, so he's really going for that wave clear and that sort of CC slow in the lane. It hasn't necessarily hurt him thus far, but it's just been a farming lane as far as that 1v1 is middle. They poked a little bit back and forth. Wicked, we do have to talk about, he's got a 20 CS advantage, and considering how low he was early, it's a good position to be in. Look at the top lane, Snoopy's coming in.
Snoopy is coming in, but also is Maluno. You can see around the side, Deficio set up a couple of kills already. May throw out.
He's got Crescendo.
Will it be a blind death sentence, or is it going to be a blind face check? And that's going to be Crescendo straight away. No chance there for Deficio.
Yeah, and Crepo and Yellow Pete had actually been sitting in that bush for a good 30 or 40 seconds. They had a pink ward down. They knew that NIP didn't know they were there. They played it patiently. They secured themselves a kill. Well played, EG.
And I gotta be honest, there was two ultimates used there. I think that was a little overkill. Shockwave comes through, misses out on Frog, and actually didn't use anything to get away from that, simply sidestepped it.
Yeah, he just stepped out of the range. I think he realized that Bjergsen was going into it. We do see that in the bottom lane. Ignites have been traded by respective top/bottom laners, and they just carry on to trade. And now, with that build with a Cutlass, Wicked's got so much kill potential.
They're going for Dragon. They're going for Dragon. They realize that. They go like, guys, the Shockwave's just been used. Let's head straight down there. There's no major weapon right now. Mimas took a lot of damage in the bottom lane as well from Wicked, so the rest of Evil Geniuses are reacting to this one very well.
They've stacked up well. This is going to be a 5-man Dragon attempt at the 13-minute mark. It's just sitting in the pit casually. Now, crucially, there's no Crescendo available, nor is there a Massacre available for Wicked's Aatrox. So if the fight happens, those are down, but it doesn't look like NIP are going to want to contest.
No, they're not going to be able to get close to this one, and the Dragon is going to go down fast. Remember back to last game, SK Gaming controlled every single Dragon, won out the game. Can Evil Geniuses do the same thing here? They desperately need a win, but then again, so does NIP, and at the moment, it is close between them. Have they given up the top tower? Well, certainly a lot of damage on towards it. Remember, they are slightly stronger, but we're past the 8-minute mark now, so they're going to be back to normal.
The thing that NIP are going to be looking for right now is to get Vayne to a very powerful position as quickly as possible. He's already got a 30 CS advantage over Yellow Pete, and we talked in the team in Champ Select how the composition of NIP is based around the damage Vayne can deal in team fights with the protection of Orianna and the Omen of Death from Yorick. So the pressure is on Freeze the longer this game goes, because he's doing well now, but he needs to make it stick once the first team fight happens.
He's going to see whether it works out for him. Froggen's going to pick himself up the second blue buff of the game. No contesting coming out from either team, really. Not putting pressure on those blue buffs. Bjergsen, you can see he's got these blue buffs of his own right now. Shockwave is back available, as is Froggen's ultimate, so they're going to be able to dash at one another, and really interested to see how that one's going to work out when they do go for it. There's the Spirit Rush. The flash comes out from Bjergsen. Has to use that defensive ball to try and get away from it. Shockwave was also used. So, as we mentioned, Froggen, once he goes aggressive, he seems to have the advantage over Bjergsen right now. It's all about the ball control.
Froggen is reading Bjergsen like a book right now. Every single time he thinks the Shockwave's coming in, he sidestepped the second one. The third one, he Spirit Rushed forward and landed a charm. He just knew it was coming, and he decided to go, on the offensive. The best defense is a good offense, and Froggen's playing it perfectly.
Playing it very well. Maluno's forced to clean out those minion waves, which means obviously Maluno's gain is actually Bjergsen's loss, which at the moment isn't such a big deal because they are 150 to 152 CS. Very close. Wicked's going for it here on the turret. Can he chunk that turret down quick enough? Yes, he can. Mima realized he's in trouble and he had to back away.
So that's very good play from Wicked. He uses the ultimate, which gives him that additional attack speed and, you know, additional attack range, so he can sit a little further back, but mostly just hammering that auto attacks as quickly as possible. With his Blade of the Ruined King already completed and now the ability to roam, we may see EG playing a little bit more of a skirmish game, using the power and the mobility of Zac and Ari to combo the mobility of Aatrox setting up kills.
He's got himself a 33 CS advantage built up, took the turret down, did of course get killed out in that gank from Maluno, but he's built himself a 700 gold advantage now over Mima, and he is heading in towards his top lane along with Snoopy. Freeze goes aggressive, he tries to get a condemn out down towards Crepo, uses that crescendo, slows them down, and in comes the backup support, straight away, they get one down. Maluno tries the Dragon Strike away from this one, Wicked doesn't catch on towards him, forces the flash away, and just like that, NIP thought they got a great gank set up, but EG were already in position.
What a brilliant crescendo from Crepo. He locked up both Jarvan and Thresh in that particular setup. They couldn't do anything. They were delayed getting the Cataclysm down, and it just allowed Yellow Pete to hammer away on Freeze in the bottom lane. This is going to give EG the second tower of the game and a nice sizable gold lead to work with.
So another one picked up for EG. As you mentioned, it gives them that 2k gold lead. They did pick up the Dragon already as well, which means they can look for another tower, and it seems to be the mid lane. Everybody's rotating down towards here. Bjergsen's already stepping away, uses the shockwave, and Froggen gets a bit of damage down. Froggen has to use his ultimate to try and dash away from it. Took him down to half hit points, but look at this in the jungle. We can see Wicked and Snoopy, they're clearing out the raids.
If the charm lands, they may jump over the wall, but it didn't. Bjergsen was able to get that movement speed from dissonance and just sidestep away. All of a sudden, with the towers down, NIP are defending. Look at that ring of vision in the top half of the jungle. I mean, there's Mima using his ultimate just to try and force the tower as low as possible, but he spent so much time on his side of the river, it's only 50% HP.
And Pete's managed to get himself down there, and now he's actually buying himself some free farm while the rest of Evil Geniuses had stacked in that mid lane. As it stands at the moment, it's Wicked and Crepo defending out this mid lane, keeping the pressure on. Wicked, he said he was really happy with Aatrox. You know, it's one of the champions that took a few teams a while to get going. 3.10 seems to be certainly one of those favors, and when Wicked finds a champion he enjoys, he generally plays it very well.
The thing that I like about the pick is the Aatrox pick came in after the Zac had already been insta-locked, and the Jarvan had been locked in. So there was the mind game of, right, oh well, that's Wicked Zac. That was my first thought. I think that was everyone's first thought. And once Jarvan got locked in, he can jump out or into the Cataclysm. We do see that the mid tower is now dropped. That's 3, and he's just going to use Darkflight to get to safety. Wicked is using all of that free attack speed on Massacre to shred towers instantly.
Plowing down another turret. That's 3-0 in turrets right now for Evil Geniuses, winning out the lane phase in strong fashion in terms of taking turrets down, and that's actually going to really put the pressure on NIP.
I would dare say that right now, if Aatrox and Vayne were to have a head-to-head, Wicked and Freeze, I think if Wicked could get a knock-up onto Freeze and avoid being stunned, I reckon he could win the duel. I think with the Massacre ultimate, the attack speed he gets, Blade of the Ruined King damage, plus the lifesteal he gets from his Bloodthirst and Blood Price, I actually think Vayne is not strong enough to beat him yet. We'll have to see if that actually works out, but I do feel like Wicked is in a very, very good position right now.
With that giant belt on him, he's going to start stacking out the hit points and armor. We'll see whether one's maybe comes out there. Shockwave used on Wicked. He is going to be able to jump straight away from this one. This time Maluno wasn't able to get that combo going and knock him in the air.
We do see that EG trying to make plays, but realizing now that all the outer towers are down, the next objective is Dragon. You can see it's respawning in about 10 seconds time. NIP are well aware of that, and they're positioning themselves to either contest or actually take it themselves. This is going to be a big fight. Everybody's ultimate is up, and it depends who gets caught.
Well, the shockwave was just used. Of course, that won't be available, which is certainly a key. The key that EG spotted, and the last time they came in to get the Dragon, and already NIP stepping away from this one. The rest of Evil Geniuses move in. It's going to be Snoopy and Wicked probably going to tank this one out. They did put the ping ward down. They haven't leashed out the Dragon yet. The hook on towards Pete isn't going to be enough. The ball comes in. That's a lot of damage on Pete. That's going to certainly make them think twice.
Yeah, now that's going to be enough to make EG back away completely. If a crescendo and a let's bounce doesn't catch 3 or 4 members, Yellow Pete's going to be able to just get focused and drop down. He's trying to sustain off the Wraith Camp with that Bloodthirster, and I think Deficio, after he landed the hook, maybe should have even gone in.
Well, EG actually trying to take advantage, positional advantage, and put the damage down on towards that turret. Wicked, remember, once he pops that ultimate, the Massacre, he does a hell of a lot of damage. Here comes Froggen, though. Let's Bounce does catch on 2 members. Crescendo on towards Freeze. Is it going to be enough? Manages to take the Dark Passage to get away. Maluno goes down, gets on towards Mima. Shockwave falls in Crepo and Snoopy, but it's not enough. That's going to be Mima going down, and now Mima's Ghost, that's going to get taked out, no problem at all. Evil Geniuses, they're 2 for 0, and they have control, and they're going for Dragon.
NIP were not committed to that attack. They were split up in 2 or 3 different avenues going into the mid lane. They got caught up because they went from different angles, and very, very importantly, once again, Crepo locks up the priority target with Crescendo. Once Freeze was forced low, he needed to run away. Now NIP are still going to try to continue. Yes, the Dragon's low.
Ooh, that got very close, but there's the smite from Snoopy. Remember, he is 3-0 currently since Shaka joined. Pressure on him to keep that 4-0 win streak going, and when a better time to do it than Super Week when you are up against the pressure, and of course with SK Gaming chasing them down. Have they got to bought themselves a good bit of time for this inner turret? No. Evil Geniuses are there to protect it. Snoopy's going to have to put some damage down on his minions. Wicked keeps him out there. Oh, has to jump away from it, but that middle turret took a hell of a beating. It's going to go down the next wave.
And the one thing that you just got demonstrated in that mid lane is just how good the wave clear is from Evil Geniuses. If you think of the respective AoE line nuke missiles, Caitlyn, Zac, Ari, even Aatrox has got the ability to clear out those conga lining minions. So it makes NIP's sieging power even more difficult, especially when you consider they got a short range carry like Vayne. So in those tower defense situations, EG have the advantage.
And we talked about it in the opening of the show, how much the junglers have been building ability power. We see Snoopy now getting himself that Haunting Guise, along with the Giant's Belt now that she's just stacked out. They're heading towards the top lane in some pajamas. Wicked is there. There's 4 members at NIP though, and just Crepo and Wicked in the defensive formation. But look at this, Snoopy and Froggen already close by.
We'll have to see who is going to be the initiating power here. Snoopy can obviously jump in with Let's Bounce, and you see that NIP, their initiating potential is that ball delivery system of Jarvan going in with an Orianna ball, or alternatively, just running at them with a Vayne and a Yorick. And it's very easy to deal with if you're EG. You can jump to safety, you can crescendo them, you can flash away. So it makes NIP's team fight starting power significantly weaker.
There's a big gold differential already building up in favor of Evil Geniuses right now. The fact that they are 3-1 up in turrets, the fact they are 5-3 up in kills, really doesn't actually count towards. They are nearly 5,000 gold ahead right now.
They're just doing very well in every metric, you know, as it stands. They're catching every single objective. You can see there's a decent farm lead as far as the top lane is concerned, 40-odd CS, and I think the kills being in their favor also helps out. But at the moment, if NIP get one good pick or one good shockwave onto the likes of Ari and Sona and Caitlyn, it could be a team fight win for them, but it means that the pressure's on NIP to make everything land.
Yeah, and actually looking across the gold, you can see Froggen with 1,000 gold advantage over his mid laner Bjergsen. Yellow Pete's got 1,000 gold advantage over Freeze. These are the carriers. These are the important ones. Wicked also effectively a carry in this game, I feel, a 1,000 gold advantage over Mima. Big differences here, but look at Froggen setting up, ready and waiting to pose on Freeze. If Freeze goes in towards these golems, he's going to go for it, but Maluno's there to try and help out. Charm gets managed to land. Death by Grasp thrown out, but it wasn't enough. Freeze had to tumble away, and Maluno's presence forced him off.
Yeah, Maluno single-handedly saved Freeze's life. If the rest of those Spirit Rushes had been used, that would have been a dead Freeze with additional damage from the DFG. So, well played by Maluno, or at least maybe lucky being in the right area at the right time. And as it stands, NIP, they have to find a window. NIP have to find an objective to fight over and take, because they're simply falling further and further behind against a team that already has, you know, a positional and a compositional advantage over you. The mid tower is a focus.
NIP making good use of their advantages here, because they know that Froggen is way off in that top lane, but there's going to be Snoopy. Let's Bounce comes in. They're coming diving in across the side there. Cataclysm not going to lock up Wicked, and he's already putting a hell of a lot of damage down. Great shockwave for the camp. Crescendo catches on towards Bjergsen. Bjergsen goes down. Crepo gets caught out. Freeze picks up the kill there. It's a 1-for-1 right now. Evil Genius is still very low, but Yellow Pete and Froggen now chasing in this fight. Froggen does not have his ultimate available though, so he can't chase them down.
It took Evil Geniuses too long to get to the damage and the backline of NIP. You've seen that Bjergsen was the only victim of that fight. Omen of Death wasn't even used, and Freeze basically went untouched. So what EG needs to do to win those team fights more convincingly is focus down the AD carry. They did, however, trade a support from mid laners. So at the end of the day, it is still a victorious fight for EG as they take the blue buff as well.
It was a support from mid laner, but Froggen wasn't there, so they didn't really have anyone to chase in there. Nevertheless, they picked up the blue buff as well, and EG seeming to be in control here, but NIP, you can't count them out. That was good positional advantage play from them. They realized that they had their mid laner missing, and they tried to put the pressure on towards that inner turret. And actually, since EG have took down those 3 outer turrets, they really haven't put any pressure on any inner turrets so far.
It's too risky to go that deep. They don't have enough items, or they're not that far ahead to go onto the, the second lane of towers with complete impedance of being attacked and being jumped on by the members of NIP. So I think it's tactical play. I think it's intelligent play from EG. And look, they're extending their lead. I mean, they were, 3,000 gold up about 10 minutes ago. That is now extended to just shy of 5,000 gold. So if they continue this upward trend, they'll just build that big buffer of items and put themselves in a very good position.
Pete is a long way away from this one, and the moment NIP realizing it again. He's in the top lane, continuing to get some free farm going. NIP are gathered in this mid lane to try and put pressure once again on the inner turret. They're going to jump in. Cataclysm comes in there.
Shockwave.
And the Shockwave ball delivery system. Crepo's going to go down. Had an Oracle on him. It's not going to matter too much, but it is going to force them away. And NIP managed to get themselves another small victory on the map.
So it's a 35-second timer until Dragon. NIP should roughly know when that is, but it is only 25 seconds till Crepo's up. So they may be able to force a 5v4 Dragon engagement, which is why they're hanging around this mid lane. The question is, do NIP have the timer on this one? It does look like it at the moment.
Remember, Crepo did not use Crescendo. They didn't get a chance to. Bjergsen's Shockwave and Cataclysm were down, and I think they're going to be up in time. They're going to, you can see all of NIP actually backing off. They know the Dragon will be available, like you said, but look at EG. They're thinking, well, fine, you're going to try and delay us for this one. We're going to put pressure on your mid turret.
So we'll have to see how well EG can, focus it down. The last time this worked in their favor because NIP had a very sloppy engage after the Dragon attempt, if we can call it that. And you can see NIP, they're more tightly knit. They're grouped up. They realize the mistakes of the previous fight, and they're staying stacked as a 5-man unit.
And Wicked with that Rannian's Omen now, he's going to be a real pressure presence on Freeze. He's going to be diving for him. You can be sure of that. He's actually putting a lot of damage out as well. You talked about it earlier on and how close he'd be in a duel with Freeze. And as it is, Evil Geniuses, they're going to get on this Dragon. We may see a dive in from Maluno. Has got smite available. No, he's going to get locked up on Charm. They could have taken the Dragon. Instead, they're going to try and take for the kills. Look at that, diving in. That's going to be Wicked picking up 1. Picks up 2. Great Shockwave coming out from Bjergsen. That gets down on Crepo, though. But here comes just around the side. He will manage to get to a second one. Freeze in all sorts of trouble. He gets caught out with a Piltover Peacemaker. That's a 4 for 1. And honestly, Maluno got away with a slither of health as well.
Evil Geniuses have decided the tower may be more important. They have a lot of damage. They may even try Baron. This will take a little while. And remember, Baron has been changed in 3.10. So whoever's affected by that Baron corrosive goo is going to have the damage reduced by 50%. A very good team fight in the river. Mimer used his Omen of Death on Bjergsen. If he had used that on Vayne, I wondered to myself if it could have worked.
Look at the lifesteal on Wicked. He's just chomping his way through this. Oh, he didn't want to attack it, though.
Bloodwell.
And that's his passive used already. He just actually caught the aggro, and you said this is going to be a dangerous Baron. It is a very dangerous Baron. Maluno might be thinking, looking at this for juicy targets, he could slide through a Cataclysm and put a hell of a lot down. He's going to go for it. He could try and get the smite in. It gets charmed up.
Flashed out.
Can he manage to flash out? He could have Cataclysm back, but EG pick up themselves up a Baron.
I don't understand Maluno's thinking there. Cataclysm was available. He had smite available as well. If you're giving Baron up, at the very least, throw your life at it. Try Cataclysm, lock them in. Buy time for Baron to hit them. I'm not quite sure I agree with that decision making. At the end of the day, Evil Geniuses secure Baron Asher for themselves and a 9,500 gold lead.
NIP going to try and take advantage of the fact that EG all had to back off. They're going to get themselves this inner turret. Crepo can't do anything about that one, that's for sure. So a small little tactical advantage, but Baron was lost. It's 3-2 in turrets right now. The gold advantage heavily in favor of Evil Geniuses after winning out the lane phase.
The pressure is now on for NIP to find a pick multiple times. They need to be able to insta-gib somebody from EG before a fight happens in order to win the fight. And when you've got 2 opponents champions with a built-in GA, the Zac passive and the Aatrox passive, that becomes infinitely more difficult because you can't focus them or target them down as your first priority.
So the pressure very much on Ninjas in Pajamas right now. The teams would effectively trade places? No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't.
Tied.
We talked about it at the start because EG is still going to be 3-1 down, even if they win in this matchup between them. But there's Wicked chunking down another turret with the rest of his team. With that Baron on now, there's nothing really stopping them, just continuing to push on through.
So they're going to catch just siege. I mean, the minion waves are slowly in their favor. It is still fairly, mid-game-ish. You can see Last Whisper complete as well as Bloodthirster. Yellow Pete's got a lot of auto-attack damage done, but no attack speed increase. So it's like a little bit longer to get these towers down. If Aatrox can get up there, that'll go quicker. And Froggen's jumped in.
Froggen tried to get in there, tried to manage to catch the charm, didn't happen, which means they were all forced to back away. They're going to steal away the blue buff third, take that away from Bjergsen. That's going to slow him down. The Dragon's going to be up as well, so they're going to jump in for that one. They're going to take away every little bit of resource they can from Ninjas in Pajamas.
Yeah, that Dragon's been standing since the previous fight that happened. And the NIP think they may be able to get onto a tower. So we'll see how quickly do EG respond. Who has started to recall? It looks like Wicked right now. And EG may jump in from behind.
They're not recalling. Now they are. They're actually going to back off. But I tell you what, NIP may have stolen themselves a march here. They're going to get on towards this inhibitor turret. Have they got enough damage? Wicked and Snoopy are going to come from behind. They've got half the damage down on this inhibitor turret already. Now they're backing off. Great play from NIP. Is it going to be enough for Wicked? They're going to try and close them down. Snoopy's coming across the side. The rest of the team are not in position. Great little play from NIP, but the chase is back on. EG are doing roles reverse. They're now running up the mid.
Look at the top lane as well. There's a massive wave of minions on that tower. If I were NIP, I think they may have been better off just recalling at the blue buff and getting into position quicker. We don't see any home guards on the side of NIP just yet. Instead, they've picked a fight. They want to play.
They've split up. This is dangerous play because Evil Geniuses have got the Baron on. Snoopy gets in. Let's Bounce comes in. Maluno gets locked up. He gets dropped. Froggen picks up the kill there. Crescendo comes across, catches 3 members. Shockwave on towards 1, but look at Froggen. He's cleaning house. Gets himself a triple. Gets himself a quadra. And absolutely massacres NIP. That's an ace. And that was a clean fight. Why would you fight open territory Baron team?
The massive death timers are in favor of Evil Geniuses, and with the attack damage of Wicked's Aatrox, they may even be able to finish this one up. Inhibitor is down. 15 seconds are on the clock. They're on the Nexus turrets, and EG may have tied themselves up with score with Ninjas in Pajamas in the first game of Super Week.
Crazy play. Sometimes it works, but sometimes it backfires horrible. And Evil Geniuses get themselves the first victory of the Super Week in impressive style against Ninjas in Pajamas. It was a strong performance, and I think straight away we're going to see a ban on Aatrox for Wicked.
Ladies and gentlemen, 1013 Snoopy. He is currently 4-0 since Tenerife. He's picked 4 games, he's won all of them. And if you look at the other carries,
Look at that.
Froggen 0 deaths. Yellow Pete 0 deaths in a 33-minute game.
Crepo involved in every single kill of the game. 1-5-14, only 15 kills in the entire game. You also look at Snoopy, 1-0-13. He was close to just 1 away. And Pete, 4-0-10. How much abuse has Pete taken over the spring-summer split? 4-0-10. Fantastic performance from Evil Geniuses.
So there's 2 things I want to point out. Number 1, we questioned the Sona pick. We're like, wow, we haven't seen Crepo on Sona. His crescendos were perfect. I cannot fault a single crescendo that he used that entire game, bar for the fact he missed freeze once. But that's me being a scumbag. Secondly, we are on patch 3.10. 3.10 has a slower early game. Evil Geniuses matched up the lanes. They did lane swaps. We talked about how Aatrox wanted